Donkey Kong is a game about Cranky Kong. Don't let Reggie tell you otherwise, he'd be a liar and a cheater. This game is from the classic days of the arcades. Kids these days, wouldn't know anything about it, but back in ye old times, there used to be places that you went to play video games. There were no home consoles, and the ones that there were absolutely failed because they put that alien in the video game. So we had arcades. They had all the classics. Dig'em, Dug'em, Puckman, Centipedal. This one is especially of note because you used a ball to play it. And most famous of all, Mappy. And of course, the titular Dinky King. 1981 is the year of the king, the King Kong. In Donkey Kong, you play as you play as Mario. It's his first appearance on the digital screen, having first appeared on the arcade cabinet art for the game Donkey Kong in the year 1981. For an arcade game, Dungly Bung is fairly linear. Where in most arcade games you have a single map, but the enemies get progressively faster, Ding Kongly has you scaling a construction site to save Pauline across 4 differing levels. And then it just gets progressively harder until you reach the fabled game over screen. But we're not going to talk about that. I was going to make a joke about this being Princess Peach, but I feel that in current year 2025, everyone already knows that it totally isn't. Now, at the time, there wasn't that much complexity in games. Most were played with just one of these, and on occasion you got one of those. Dinkley was no different, just a joystick and the button to jumpa. The simplicity in gameplay prevailed at the time because arcade games needed to be easy to learn but hard to master, so that they could eat as much of your money as humanly possible. Let's get through the levels. We start with the iconic 25 meters, complete with its precise barrel jumping that will kill you over and over and over and over. Be careful on this one ladder, as the mule himself will hit you with his stand ability, "Fuck you, snipe!" and will kill you with no chance of survival. Something that's actually pretty ingenious about this level is that from the start there's a flame from a random oil barrel that I guess is on this construction site, and it chases you throughout the level. Nintendo probably saw this as a way to speed up arcade lines that were waiting to play this incredible game, as it eradicated the opportunity to wait and plan. You either go or you die. Now, unfortunately, the only version of this game I had access to was the NES re-release of the arcade cart, and for some reason they decided that it would be smart to completely remove the 50-meter level, so I guess eagerly await the release of the 50-meter review? It'll come out eventually, I promise. 75 meters is the da 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 da. This is the one that your asshole friend always picks in Smash Bros. One of the fun things about this level is that the programmers didn't know how to make someone move in the air unless it was the exact arc they programmed Mario to jump in. So if you fall off a platform on accident, Mario straps the cement blocks he had in his pocket to his feet and dies instantly. Watch out for the funny springs though, and this level isn't very hard. 100 meters is the final climax. Here's some new gameplay. All you have to do is knock out all the supports on the top of this massive skyscraper scaffolding, and Donkey Kong will go plummeting to the bottom where he suffers insane brain damage, somehow learns the entire history of Nintendo, and starts to use a cane because he also probably hurt his legs and back like a lot. Donkey Konga is pretty good. For an arcade game that no one wanted a review for, I give it a solid 6 out of 10. I think we're going to throw this one on the C tier. We could talk about Donkey Kong Jr., we could totally do that, but in that game you don't play as Mario, and that's really all I'm focused on here. Stay tuned for the end of the video where I do this again with the game you actually play as Mario in. Guys, I'm being so for real, Wrecking Crew sucks so hard. After devastating the donkey population, Mario decides to settle down. And by settle down, I mean he settled down into the New York sewers where he and his brother, who looks exactly like him, decide to kill a bunch of turtles. Non-Super Mario Bros. Crashed onto the scene in 1983. This was still one of those ye old arcade games that they played in public. That being said, the gameplay had to be simple yet addictive. Nintendo took the basis they had with Donkey Kong of creating a progressively harder and harder game throughout its levels, not just an enemy speed and movement, as you'd see in something like Pac-Man.
This is all I got.
But by actually changing the levels as you went. For Dingle Kong, this meant changing the level format every successful level beat until the game looped. But for the Brothers Mario, they worked around the constraint of every level having the same map. They decided to make the progression of this game focus on the enemy variety and quantity. And you may say to that,
"Oh, well, doesn't that make this game more boring?"
And I say to that, That's actually a really interesting question because on the one hand, it being a repetitive loop leads to a bit of a doldrum when it comes to the gameplay, but because it's a loop where they introduce new features over the levels, it keeps up the engagement further over time. Whereas with something like Donkey Kong, once the levels are beaten once or twice, you kind of know what to expect. The variety of enemies actually keeps the game semi-refreshing, even if it does eventually lose its luster. I would say all of that if you ask me. This game is a blast to play. Despite its clunky platforming and the fact that you need to be running to jump with an arc at all, the precise gameplay required to actually get good at the game is really engaging to learn. In fact, getting the footage for this video, I found myself playing Mario Bros. Far more than I was playing Donkey Kong, and this was supposed to be a smaller add-in at the end of this video. I even perfected the bonus stage despite its insanely precise jumps for one player. And that's another thing. This game is entirely two-player split screen. Whether you want to compete for high scores or just try and get as far as you want with the other player, you can. I genuinely think if you've never played this game, give it a round. If by the end of that round you don't think, man, I want to get further than I did before, I'd be surprised. If anything, that's what makes a good arcade game. Mario Bros gets a 7 out of 10, and I'm going to slap this one on B tier. Listen, you didn't go to the arcade for engaging storytelling. You went to waste $5 playing a game that you wouldn't get past the first level of. But when you did beat that first level, it felt like even more of a triumph. There was a definitive sense of victory when it came to some of these games, even if the levels looped endlessly. We too often take advantage of the fact that we in the modern day have access to an endless supply of interesting narratives and long-form content. All they had was a box with random Koopas, and they loved it. Next time you feel yourself looking for something new to play, maybe consider booting up an arcade classic and seeing if you can beat the high score. Use rewind or save states or anything you want, but actually try it. There's a whole world of gaming that I doubt many have even tried to look into for more than 5 minutes. Some good, some bad, but all made with love and passion. And then when you get like 3 game overs, you can go play the new God of War. I don't care. Welcome to my quest to document every game where you play as Mario. If you watched this far, thanks. Consider subscribing. I had a lot of fun making this and would love to make more. Let me know what you think in the comments and leave a like if you liked it. It really boosts my self-esteem. And if you guys say, oh, but you skipped Wrecking Crew, I'd rather eat Mario's cement shoes than play that game. I'm never going to review it.